Hey guys, welcome back. So we had such a great response a couple weeks ago on our podcast about sex. We have had amazing conversations since. We've had people reach out that have been listening to it to talk about how much value they got from the podcast, but also talk about the things that still were left unsaid. And Dee Dee and I feel like there is still a lot of things that we need to talk about. So that's why we're here now.
And we want to hear from you too. Nicole and I have had great conversations with other people over the past couple of weeks, but we want to hear, what topics do you feel like we still need to unpack? What questions do you have? And we are creating a link on our website. You can go to our website, www.liveyourdesign.life. Go to the podcast section, and there will be a link where you can submit questions to us anonymously. And whatever you want to ask, just send it over to us. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what's weighing heavy on your heart. We will also put a link in the show notes of this podcast episode so that you can easily access that link and get the information to us there as well.
It is so important to Dee Dee and I that we keep the conversation going and talk about the things that need to be talked about, but sometimes are a little socially taboo. We believe that God has created us to be amazing, so it's time that we start just plucking all of these things inside of us that have maybe held us back so that we can really thrive. So we're excited to talk about this again soon.
Absolutely. And one thing too, Nicole and I both have 3 daughters. So this is a very important conversation that we want to have together, and also discover ways to invite younger people into this conversation with us as well.
Absolutely.
Hi, I get to bring the questions today, and I'm very excited because I'm going to play a game with Nicole. 60 seconds to get to know Nicole better.
Oh no.
So it's going to be mini rapid fire questions. I think I have 11 here. We'll see how many we get through in our 60 seconds, and I'm setting a timer. Ready? How many pillows are on your bed?
10.
Coffee, tea, or hot chocolate?
Coffee, no doubt.
I knew you were going to say coffee. So cream and sugar or black?
Black.
Fill in the sentence. I like to shop for...
Food, plant-based food.
The mountains or the beach?
Both, but the beach for sure.
What is your preferred quiet time? Morning or night?
Night.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Over.
Yes. Favorite snack food, sweet or salty?
Salty.
Favorite color to wear?
Black.
A color you would never wear?
Pink.
I always try to... Oh, time's up.
Let's try to. Say please and thank you. I don't know. That was really good, Dee Dee.
That was fun.
And I don't know that I did very good answering it, but that was really fun. Yeah. Some of those you knew. Coffee, black, of course.
Well, that's why the next question was cream and sugar or black. But our listeners don't know that.
That's true. That's true. All right. I get to bring the topic now. So this was sent to me just today.
Ooh.
And it's maybe a poem, a writing. And so I read it, and there was something really beautiful to it. There was something that resonated in me. There was something that made me feel so pleased with how far I've come. So I just want to read it. I don't even know if I have questions that went along with it. I just want to then kind of talk about it after I read it.
Okay.
So this is being passed on through social media to women, are passing this on to other women. It says, to the woman who is slowly fading away. To the woman who has lost her spark. To the woman whose get up and go has well and truly gone. This is for you. This is to remind you that you don't have to be everything to everyone every day. You didn't sign up for that. Remember when you used to laugh, when you used to sing and throw caution to the wind? Remember when you used to forgive yourself more quickly for not always being perfect? You can get that back again. You really can. And that doesn't have to mean letting people down or walking away. It just means being kinder to you, feeling brave enough to say no sometimes, being brave enough to stop sometimes and rest. It starts the moment you realize that you're not quite who you used to be. Some of that is good, and some of that is not. There are parts of you that need to be brought back. And if anyone in your life is not okay with that, they are not your people. Your people will be glad to see that spark starting to light up in you again. So if you have been slowly fading away, my friend, this is the time to start saying yes to things that bring you joy and no to things that don't. It's really that simple. And the credit to this goes to, and I don't know who it is Donna Ashworth. So I read that today.
I love that.
I do too. And it reminded me of a meeting I had earlier today with someone who is very invested in the businesses that she owns. And so when we talked about my life and some different things that I'm involved in, she was feeling like she's so tied up in her businesses, that she has lost herself in the process. And one of the things she said to me is, you are doing a lot of things, and I admire that. I can't do a lot of things. And I said to her, I have finally found that I can pick things that keeps me in alignment, that work together. And that's how I'm able to do the things I'm doing. Before, what I would do is I would do things that worked against each other, and I felt like I was in chaos and unhappy a lot. And now I've learned to only say yes to the things that keeps me in alignment with what I feel like I'm called to do. And she was like, yeah. So I don't know, that I don't really have a particular question to go with this, but when I read it, I thought to myself, how many women need to see that?
Yeah. I love what you said at the end there, where you said, I'm doing the things I feel I'm called to do. Because when you just say yes out of obligation or out of guilt, or because somebody has to do it, then you end up saying yes to a lot of things that you haven't been called to. And if you haven't been called to it, you don't have the grace for it. Does that make sense? Like, you're not empowered to succeed in that if you just take on every single thing that comes your way. And when you become particular about what you say yes to, then your life is so fulfilling. And the things that you're putting your energy to create energy within you, because it's what you were made to do. But when you are saying yes to things that drain you, that are a hassle, that you approach resentfully because you don't really want to do it, then that just drains your energy. I mean, it sucks the life out of you.
Yeah, I remember. So this takes me back. You talking about this takes me back to when I used to work in the nursery at church. That was not my calling. But I felt as if I had a child in the nursery that I was obligated to put time in to working the nursery. And so I would show up and do my times in the nursery. I felt like the other adults in the nursery thought that because I had a child that age and I must be nurturing because I have so many children, that I wanted to change every poopy diaper. I mean, I literally felt like I got every poop. It was like I finished one and they just told me to change another. And I hated it. You know, it's like I loved the children, but I hated the position I was put in. But I kept signing up because I felt a sense of obligation until there was somebody that talked to me. No, you know what I think it was? I think it's when we got into the spiritual gifts thing and really started talking about going towards the areas that you're called to. And I realized that's when I started teaching middle school Sunday school. And I did it for years and I loved it. I didn't belong in the nursery. I felt an obligation to say yes. And nobody made me feel obligated. I put it upon myself.
Don't we usually, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what this really speaks into. There was some kind of guilt that was playing into me that nobody was putting my way. Nobody was looking at me and telling me I should be working in the nursery. But I felt like I was obligated to work in the nursery. So I felt guilty when I didn't, and it did not play to my gift or my calling.
Yeah.
I dreaded my time doing that. And the thing is, there are people in there that love to rock those babies, you know, because that's where they're being called to. It wasn't me. Do you have an experience like that you?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I mean, I said yes to everything out of guilt for a long time. Like, nobody else can do it. And then I would do it because I felt like somebody needed to step up and do it. And there is a shortage of volunteers in a lot of areas. There are. In church, we feel it. In the schools, we feel it. And sometimes I think people want to help, but they don't know where to help as well. But man, it was maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, we did the Bible study, Your Best Yes.
Okay. Yes.
By Lisa Turkhurst. Fantastic. If you are a yes person who always gets the phone call, can you come help with this? Can you come help with that? Will you volunteer for that? It is fantastic because when you say yes to something, one of the things she said in there is when you say yes to something somebody else is called to do, you're taking away an opportunity for them. And I thought, I've never seen it that way. I saw it as filling a need. And there were a lot of things I did begrudgingly because I didn't want to. Now, when I showed up, I didn't act that way or anything, but it was just trying to get there, you know, it was sucking my energy, and I felt like I needed to be somewhere else, you know. But that Bible study is fantastic. It's really, really good. She did a great job with that one. And she's really funny, too, if you've never read her books or done one of her Bible studies.
I have that book on my shelf, but I have never read it.
Really? It's very
the title
good.
alone,
It's very good.
I felt like I was impacted by it because I knew exactly, like I didn't read it to know the content in it, but the title struck me. So I bought it, and then it's one of the many books on my shelf that
Yes. Yeah.
I will get to someday.
Yeah. Well, you know, I had that book, 1,000 Gifts, for a long time, and I hadn't read it until we talked about it. We didn't talk about it on this podcast, I don't think. I think it was the women's ministry videos we did.
Okay,
Where
yes.
you mentioned it. But I love that. I'm reading it now. It's fantastic. But
so good.
Yeah, Your Best Yes. And I still volunteer a lot. And I enjoy it, and everything I volunteer with now, I like being a part of. So it makes you more intentional with your time as well, because you only have a certain amount of time. So how are you going to spend it?
Yeah, and when you do spend your time doing the things you're called to do, not the things that you just keep saying yes to out of obligation, you bring a light into those scenarios. Like, people want to serve with you when you're in, what is the saying? You're either in your wax or your flame. Isn't that kind of...
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
Say that again?
if you're working in your wax, you don't want to work in your wax, you want to work in your flame. So if you think about, even if your feet are stuck in wax, like, you're just trudging through that, you know, that positioning, that candle, it's like holding you back. But man, if you can work in your flame, like, you're on fire, you know, and people, that light is contagious. So if you can think about times in your life that you have been doing what you're supposed to be doing, you bring energy and light to the scenario. And that's exactly what that writing was showing up for. Like, then you can show up again. You can feel good again. You'll have gratitude again, because you're no longer like trudging through things that you were feeling. You lost yourself. You lose yourself when you're in your wax.
Because you're just trying to survive. And then all your time is eaten up with things that you're trying to just do out of obligation. But you will be a better employee when you learn to use your best yes, when you learn to say no to things. Because if you are an employee that takes on all those things that your boss tries to throw at you, and you're trying to multitask and then get your work done, things are going to slow. And you become a much valuable asset, I believe, whenever you can say, I don't have the bandwidth to do a really good job on this right now, and then offer another solution. Maybe you bring in somebody else to assist you and you oversee it. Maybe it needs to be on somebody else's shoulders completely. Or you say, I can't do it this week, but I can take care of it completely by myself next week. Because then you are really performing at the top of your game. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times we're afraid to say, no, I can't handle it, because we may look too weak or incapable or something like that. But when we come at it and say, I would not do a good job if I did this right now because I'm working on these things, your level of respect just went up a number of notches, because they know that you value your work and that you're systematic in how you're approaching things too.
And I think in business particularly, but it happens in the household also, is when you pull back for trying to do everything, mm-hmm. then as a company, you're able to see where there's holes that need to be plugged. I mean, it really mm-hmm. shows if you're attempting to fill all those spots, then weaknesses are not showing through. There may be some weaknesses within the organization that need to be taken care of, but you're kind of covering it up because you're trying to work the whole system. Same with our family.
Yeah.
Like when you are able to pull back and systematically look at things so that you're not trying to do it all, you can see where there are some sore spots within your household, within your marriage, within, going on with your kids, that you can only see that if you're not trying to dominate and do it all out of obligation. It really it feels like a service to what you're doing to the company you're working for by allowing to see if all boxes are being checked.
I like what you said. You just said it feels like a service, and it does. But really, it's such a disservice, because from a family perspective, if you try to be everything to everybody, again, you're losing yourself, because you're just trying to fill in these roles but not take any time to nourish yourself. So there's no way to grow when you're just trying to plug in holes. You can't grow your company if you're just taking and like spinning plates all the time, because you can't back up, like you said, and evaluate, where do we need to systemize this? Where do we need to bring in outside resources so that we can scale? And it's like that within our families too. If we're just trying to plug the holes and get through the day, how are we really going to grow relationships? How are we going to really grow that closeness? How are we going to be intentional with the things we want our kids to know and learn? We aren't going to even have time to do it. Pastor Jody, our lead pastor at our church, did a sermon. He preached a sermon maybe 2 years ago, and I don't know how many times I've listened to it. It is so good. It's called White Space, I think was what he called it. And he said, imagine, he was talking about how we don't have any white space in our lives anymore. Now, this was obviously pre-COVID, but as the world opens back up, this is a great thing to remember, because it's going to be really easy to fill our days again. He said, imagine reading a book and there was zero margin. The letters went from end to end, top to bottom. There was no margin, very little spacing, very little white space on the page. just imagine trying to read a book like that, and you can see how difficult it would be, how overwhelming it would
Yes.
be. And when we live our lives page to page, top to bottom, completely full, there is no white space to pause and take notes or to comment on. Like, there's no engagement with the copy. And I don't know about you. I love to take notes when I read books. I'll underline things, or I'll put a star by it, or a heart, or a cross, or something, or a thought I had, and I'm engaging with it. Well, it's the same with our families. If we live to where there's no white space, and it is, get up, it's time for school, it's get your stuff for this practice, for that practice, and you're going in 1,000 different directions, you're passing your husband or wife in the hallway, there's no white space to really engage with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't say that, I don't think, in that message, but that was one of the things I took from it. Like that, the analogy of no white space in the book, how that laid over with our relationships. And it stuck with me. I've passed it along a number of times too. It's just really a good one. And I think that's how you end up in the place that part of the way you end up that way. Part of it is just life. We never seek out to be completely swamped in life.
We don't desire to be drained and exhausted.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But you end up in that place by not intentionally choosing where you're going to go.
So if there's people that are feeling this way, if there's women out there that are feeling this way, and I know there are.
Yes.
I was one of those women years
Me too.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what the focus can be for 2021, is because things eventually are going to start opening up again. We're going to start making decisions on where our time is going to go, where our energy is going to go, who are we going to plug into, and also where are we going to add in things that just bring us joy, like things that just fill our tank. There's a lot of times I think when you get into parenthood that you start thinking, I don't even know what my hobbies are anymore. I don't even know what I enjoy to do.
Yeah.
And I guess that can be their brand new start. Like we're going to get a new start again and being out there. And that can be your brand new start, is spending a year figuring out who you are and taking the pressure off of trying to please everyone, because it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Seek to please the Lord
Mm-hmm.
first. Yeah. Isn't it funny, as women, we give our whole lives to these children. And in that process, we lose ourselves. But we see the value in living out the person God called us to be in our children's lives. Like, we want them to have better. So then we strive to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting how that whole, time and time again, I've talked with other people where that is the same thing that they've experienced.
And in my journey to find myself again, I do remember a day of looking in the mirror and having this feeling. And I remember saying it to myself. It's part of my testimony in all of this is, there she is. There's that girl I know. And so that's going to be my prayer for all of our listeners right now, that something is resonating in them, that they feel lost and doesn't know who she is or doesn't know how to find her, because she is still in there.
Mm-hmm. So this reminds me of one time, I may have told you this, but I had a lot of life changes in a very short amount of time. We got married, we had McKenna, then we had our second child, Kelsey. In the meantime, I was trying to do a business with fitness in this town, and also doing graphics work for the Fitz company. And in the middle of all of that, trying to build this website with this person for the company. And he was at my parents' house one day, and there was a picture of me from my honeymoon. And I mean, I had 2 kids. I was not sleeping much. I was exhausted. I probably had like baby food or spit up in my hair. And he looked at this picture and he was like, "Who is that? Is that you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "That's you." And I said, "Yeah, that was me on our honeymoon." And he was like, "Oh my gosh, you were like a 10." And I was like, that was like 4 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I know. Like, I felt so bad.
Okay, first off, that's a really insulting thing to say. If you'd be like, that was a nasty thing to say, he was like, I was giving you a compliment. I'm sure that's what he thought in his head. But you want to punch him in the face.
I'm sure he was thinking, what happened to you between then and now? But you have 2 kids and your body changes so much and your life changes so much and you're just trying to keep up with it. And I mean, he's hilarious, but I did not appreciate that comment at all. But yeah, it's hard to look in the mirror and say, how did I get here?
Yeah, I don't even know you.
It is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then to say, okay, I don't have to stay here. I can make changes. And I want to make changes even if it's because I want my kids to have a better example than what I'm setting right now. Even if that's the motivation. But it's not hopeless.
No, and I have posed that to some different coaching clients that I've had when they would talk about where they were at, and I would say, so how would you feel if your daughter, like this is where your daughter was at? Mm-hmm. And they would be like, I would be so sad. And I was like, okay, then let's start setting a new example.
Yes.
Because I think there's a lot of times that we get to our place as motherhood and we think we're trying so hard and that's going to be what helps our daughters like rise up to be the beautiful creation that they are, but we're not rising up ourselves.
Right.
So we are the example.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's exciting.
It is. Yeah.
Like, that is a really great opportunity. That's something to get excited about. Mm-hmm. Even if you haven't been the example you want to be, you can change that today. And you changing that is a huge example to your children.
All right. That was awesome. And I look forward to our discussions in 2021, but if that's where you're at right now, it would be really cool if we could go forward with you and assist you in so that you're able to show up the way that the girl you know who you are. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas. We hope you all have a wonderful Christmas with your family and friends, whether it's from a distance or maybe you are getting together with people. We hope that you have a very, very Merry Christmas.